Hello and welcome to the introduction to Ascending to Total Maturity. I'm Chad Broshears, the creator of the education, and I'm looking forward to this introduction. So I'm going to get right into it. All right. So in my experiences and all my studies and all of my life, I've come across many successful people in specific areas, but they're not well-rounded. I've run across far fewer well-rounded people that are mature in all instances that I've observed and that I've kind of qualified and categorized as far as human maturity goes. And I've recognized that our society will idolize an isolated aspect of a human being. Like if somebody is well-knowledge, well-rounded, you can get somebody who's highly intelligent and say, we all advise, look up to this person because of how intelligent they are. Well, the experience that person has is most commonly that they're more often talking above people's heads, so they have to make it understandable. Their community experience with that is that they're challenged to connect. That's why Mensa, in my opinion, why they created Mensa, is because these ultra brilliant people wanted to have a place to have a conversation with like-minded equivalents, as well as, there's other values to it, but that is a significant benefit for Mensa, is that these people can actually speak as peers rather than speaking to somebody who constantly wants something from them. Um, you know, if you constantly go up to somebody and say, "Hey, tell me about this. How does that work?" You're coming to somebody with a want from them, and if that's a constant, it's kind of like being a celebrity. You can't go anywhere without being recognized. So it's not like, exactly like, they go wherever and they can't be, it's the people that know them that constantly look at them that way. And it's kind of it creates an island because there's a lot of facets people deny or hide from other people. This is true in all instances. You'll have people that are in the clergy that are not allowed to experience sex, but yet they do crude acts on children and the priesthoods. You'll have people that are extremely wealthy, but you can't have a conversation with them, and they treat people like trash. You'll have people that, they're well put together, they're intelligent, they make money, they seem to have it all put together, but as soon as one thing happens, you find out how mature they are emotionally. My example I like to give, but this is not specific to a person, I just created a person in this example, but I'm sure that everyone watching this will relate to it, is imagine a successful 30-something-year-old woman who's, let's say she's an attorney. She's got a beautiful car, she's a beautiful house, beautiful children, wonderful, loving from the outside, apparently a loving and adoring husband, and one day she finds out her husband has had an affair. And this well put together woman is now dragging a key down the side of a vehicle. She's pouring sugar in the gas tank. She's doing things that are absolutely out of what you would perceive her character to be. And the reason for that, and again, this is a fictitious person, but I can promise you, if you look into your life, you'll find people that fall into that type of example where you think, oh my God, you're so well put together. And you find out that there's areas that they're missing. So some people are driven totally for success, and whatever happens in the meantime for their direction for success is that other people are at cost so long as they succeed. Like people that have a lot of money that aren't planning for the future, so they're tearing down the rainforests, or they're attacking, they're creating relationships that are only meaningful in the context of making money. There's a lot of different facets that people choose because they believe that's the only way to live this life. So this program is designed to start to expose the areas that we have not developed in. The series of videos that are going to follow this are going to be each one of the 8 areas, and it's going to be a topic point on one area at a time, and then how they all coalesce, they all work together. So there's so many different ways to explain this, but the fastest or most effective way is just to consider that you will measure other people by where you are, and if they seem that they're mature in that area, you'll likely want something that they have as far as their experience and maturity, or you'll deny yourself that because of you feeling insecure that they have that over you, or you may say, I don't have any interest in it whatsoever, but you may not have an awareness of why that actually is what's causing you not to feel the full level of satisfaction in your life. Wherever you are feeling satisfied now doesn't mean that you couldn't feel even more or a greater sense of satisfaction if you were to experience something beyond, or if you were to continue developing in that area. So ascending to total maturity is, I'll tell you the 8 areas, and then the videos again that follow will give you a full video on that area. And again, all of them are just introductions. They're very in-depth, but I'm not out to try to make you understand where I am, but more about just to give you an introduction so there's a different perspective on life. So you can start measuring, whenever you're dealing with somebody who may be 30-something years old but behaving like an 8-year-old, and then you can be compassionate towards that person because you can get that they didn't fully develop there. There's a lot of times we step over a development because of other people's interactions. Our parents may have said something and then we were like, oh, well, I guess I'm supposed to grow up and not go through this. There's plenty of examples whenever it comes to the early development, like children that are sped up too quickly to walk, and what kind of damage that can actually do, or hardships that can create in their life. Children that don't get to play, but they're put in front of programs like Baby Einstein, that are designed to get them to skip over essential fundamental development pieces. There's actually been lawsuits towards that. There's other programs, not just that Baby Einstein, but anyhow, so the 8 areas of development are first, and I put it just in chronological order, it doesn't always occur this way, but this is a dominance in the United States and its development. So first is the physical body, and as a child born, there's a physical body, and then it develops towards whatever goal that we have physically. If you have no conscious direction towards a physical goal, then you'll get what you have, which is something that may be less appealing to you and others. Then there's the community, because we're all born with at least a mother. And whether you go into an orphanage or whatever, or you have that loving, adoring family, that's your first community. Then comes cognitive knowledge, or cognitive, which is where we just start learning things. And we're learning all sorts of things, like a child learning to do, watching their hand. They're learning how to move their hand, and they're absolutely absorbed in what they're learning. So the physical maturity factor is, the cognitive maturity is, it's all over. Children learn from your character first, then they learn from what you say. So they learn how to cry whenever you act a certain way. They observe you. If you've ever been around babies, you'll recognize they observe everything, and they just sit and watch quietly because they can't really communicate other than cry and wiggle around. So that's cognitive. Then comes emotion. And we start developing emotionally at a young age because we're learning what the sensory systems for emotions are about, why we have them, and whatnot. We do have a significant void in guidance in emotional development. Most people avoid things they don't like. We have what I call people stuck on happy. They believe the only way to live this life is to be happy. It's kind of like being a heroin addict. You got to keep getting more happy because it's an existential, external of self type of experience, rather than an internalized, developed internal experience of self and where you are and satisfaction with who you are. So people are stuck on that stuff. So they lack the ability to teach people outside of it. So when somebody's upset or frustrated, the more common thing is that it'll pass. Well, yeah, it'll pass, but are you just getting them to become a coma patient while they're experiencing it because of your own inefficiencies of development towards that, or else? So there's lack of guidance. Few parents want to have the big picture conversation with their kids about everything they're going through. Most parents just don't seem to have time for that, especially whenever it comes to the sexual conversations. So children have to learn sexuality in the wild because parents are limited on their experience and their conversations with their children because they want to avoid a feeling of like a stressful conversation, which it really doesn't have to be. It's resistance. So emotions has been greatly misguided and left for us to grow up in the wild in, because there's, again, there are very few guides out there that can truly show us emotionally how to grow up. Most people avoid the negative and go for the positive, which is absolutely stepping over building steps and building stones. Living optimistically is also a nullifying experience because it's like chosen unconsciousness. You have all these events unfolding in front of you that are telling you that you did not do something correctly, or what you wanted to do did not occur efficiently as it really does occur in nature because of your limitations, but rather sit blind to it because you want to just wait for the next feel-good situation. So, or how could possibly outlook, this thing? You don't have to be positive or a negative, optimist or pessimist. You can just be. But anyhow, so that's one of my gripes, if you will, or one of my explanations of why we have so little emotional direction and maturity. Being stoic, by the way, doesn't necessarily mean that you are emotionally mature. It just means that you know how to sit there and endure. All right, so that's emotion. Then comes sexuality. And sexuality is an interesting one because it doesn't mean gay or straight. It just means your sexual preference and then the way you express yourself sexually in the world. The way you dress is an expression of your sexuality. If you put on cologne, that's an attempt to become more attractive and accepted because you want to smell nice and you want people to just accept you for smelling nice and also find you to be somebody they want to experience, whether that be friendship or more, whatever. All of those things are expressions of sexuality. No, it's not expressions of sexuality, the act. That's later on in the program. This is awareness level. In comes finances. Most children and kids have, chores they get paid for, allowances and things like that. Where are you with your finances? What is your relationship with money? Are you willing to sacrifice yourself or your family to make money, or to reach your goals at any cost? So you'll wake up early, you'll go to bed late, you'll get little sleep, your body gets out of harmony, you start to get sick, or you start to break down, and you don't recognize it because you're so devoted to making money that you think, someday I'll make it, rather than accepting it that you made it now. But this is about measuring where you are financially and your maturity level. Some people, when they get money, they can't help but spend it. Other people won't spend a dime, they're frugal. Other people, there's all types of different directions, but there actually is a healthy, mature development level in money, but it's not as common because it's a very coveted thing. Okay, so that's money. Then there's business. Business itself does not mean that you work for somebody. You can own your own business, or that you own your own business, you could work for somebody, or you could be retired, or you could be just born into money and you don't need to work. Regardless, you still have a position in business. So if you're buying things, you are related to business, and there is a maturity level for that. It doesn't matter. If you're working, what's your relationship with your job? Is it just a stepping stone? Is it a career? Is it, I just have to do this with my life? I want to open a business, but I don't know how. Those are all different conversations for awarenesses of maturity. You can start measuring how mature you are in that area, but it does not mean that you shouldn't try it. By all means, I think that you should look into, and whenever I say should, I mean must, look into the things you would like to experience in this life. So that's business. And the final is spirituality. And spirituality is not religion. It can have religious connotation, or religion can utilize spirituality, but spirituality is not that in the way that I teach it. Spirituality and how I teach it is your connection to yourself, how you feel about you, what your purpose is on this planet, as far as what do you feel that you're here to do or experience. If you have to feel you're here to do or experience something, you don't even have to have that experience. You could just simply have, I'd like to do something in my life. What would I like to do? And then your connection to that. How much do you want that to happen? Your connection to other people. Empathy falls into the category for me as a level of spirituality, which is a connection. Empathy, I can empathetically feel where you're coming from. Not just hear you, but I feel it. If you're telling me you're running, I can feel my heart speed up a bit. That's empathy, but that falls into spirituality for me. It's emotion and spirituality. So spirituality itself, again, is not religion. For me, it is, all religions have spirituality. They all have an intention for teaching that. At least it's somewhere in their religious context. But I'm not attached to any single religion. I believe that all of them are right, and that all of them are wrong whenever they start making others wrong. So spirituality is just the connection. What we are in this big scheme, cosmology, is my position for another conversation of spirituality. It's looking beyond ourselves. So anyhow, that's the 8 areas. This is the brief introduction. I know it's brief, but it's the introduction. And all videos following this will have conversations in each one of the areas specific and sticking with that area. So thank you very much for taking the time to watch this video. Have a great day.